Hello. Thank you. Thanks all of you for coming in the morning. Like, I hope you're not sleepy. So we're going to talk about A/B testing today. My name is Sahil. A little bit about myself. I work at Booking.com as a graduate software developer. And besides work, I love open source, and I am a contributor in the Git project that Git tool that you probably use every day in your life. I'm also a contributor in the Pandas library, which is a Python library for data analysis and visualization. Besides that, I work at DuckDuckGo as a community leader. I lead the open source community, and we are on an aim to build the best search engine for the programmers. So if you're a programmer, check it out. So let's talk about the agenda, what we are going to cover today. I will be starting with a quick introduction about A/B testing, what it is, and just a quick definition. We'll talk about why A/B testing is important, why you should care about A/B testing, and why you're here. Next, we'll cover what all you can test using A/B testing, what are the things that you can test. Next, we'll talk about the process. This is going to be the major part of this talk, because it's going to cover the different steps of the process, and then how to make sense of the data that you collect as a part of the A/B test. And it will also contain segmentation, like how to do segmentation over the results that you get, and to make sure that you get the best out of the A/B test. Next is going to be my favorite part, which is why tests fail. It's going to cover some of the things that you should be careful about when you are doing A/B testing, so that you're able to test things efficiently. And next, we'll just conclude, and I will leave you for the next conference, for the next talk. So before I start, I want to know how familiar you are with A/B testing. Can I see hands of people who use A/B testing in their daily life or regularly? Okay, quite a lot. And those who want to be able to do A/B testing in their work or in their life? Okay, quite a lot. And all those who didn't raise a hand in any of these, like, are you just for fun? Okay, I will try to make it entertaining for you as well. So let's start. A/B testing is a process of conducting experiments to improve your customer experience. What that means is, let's say you have two variants of let's say you have a website, and you have two variants. In one variant, you have, for example, in this case, you have a button which is blue, and the other one, it's green. Now you have two variants, A and B, and you want to do A/B test. What you do is you split your traffic into two parts. You split your traffic into two parts because you have two variants here, and then you show variant A to one part and the B to another part. And then you observe which part behaves better in whatever metrics you want to measure. It may be conversion, it may be for your sign-up ratio, or maybe click rate, or anything. It depends on you. And for your information, this is really a simple example of changing the color of the button. A/B testing is not just about changing the colors and seeing which one converts better. It's a lot more about that, and we will cover some examples to see what are some of the things that you can test using A/B testing. So now that you just know, like, a quick introduction what A/B testing is, let's talk about why you should care about A/B testing and why it's really important to do A/B testing on your product, whatever it is. The first reason is your customers get to decide what stays on your website, on your product. And what that means is, when you do A/B testing with your new features, new changes that you implement, if you do A/B testing, then you are going to see how much your customers like that feature or like those changes. And you get direct feedback from your customers, and you get to see, okay, is this going to stay on the website or not, on the product or not? So it really gives the power to the end customers to decide what actually stays on the website or on your product. Next is, it's easy to measure the impact of your changes on your business. And let me give an example for this. So let's say you have multiple, you have an e-commerce website and you have multiple teams working on the different parts of that website. Now, all those teams are hopefully working to get higher conversion rate or higher profit rate on your website, on your e-commerce website. Let's say your team makes a change and you want to see how much contribution that particular change has on the business. You can't just look at the conversion rate in the end of the month and say like, okay, it went up by 10%. You should be able to narrow down to see what actually worked and how much impact it had on your business. It gives you a powerful way to measure the business impact that those changes have on your product. Next is, whatever you do, you are going to have some opinions. Your teammates have some opinions, and your boss is going to have some opinion, that their boss is going to have some other opinions. If you do A/B testing, anything that you do is going to be independent of any one of those opinions, including you. It doesn't matter what your assumptions are, what your opinions are about a particular thing. Even if your boss comes to you and say it should be green instead of blue, you can do an A/B test and confirm for yourself what it actually should be, and instead of just going on the basis of opinions. And by the way, opinion-based development is a really, really bad idea because opinions are wrong most of the times. So you need to A/B test to see what works for you and not just in the assumptions or opinions. This is a nice one. So let's say you have you have different teams. Again, you're working on the different parts of your product, and if you want to add new features, you need to be careful that you don't keep adding all of the stuff that you build. It should be based on what is actually liked by the people, by the customers of your product. If you do A/B testing, it will help you in keeping only those things live on the website, on the product, that actually matter for your business and for your customers. So it cuts down on the functionality bloat and helps you in keeping only those things which are important for you as a business and for your customers. Next is general product deployment becomes a little easier. And what that means is, if you roll out some changes, and put them in production, if you wrap those changes inside a A/B test, first of all, those changes are going to be seen only by 50% of the people. So it decreases the impact of any errors or any warnings that you may see while deploying those changes. And the second thing is, it gives you an on-off switch to just turn off the feature and pull that new feature out of production if there's something that goes wrong. And it helps you in increasing the velocity of your development, because it gives you an easy, flexible way to switch off any changes anytime, and it helps you in increasing the velocity of your development. And finally, it helps you to learn. To learn from your customers. It's a really powerful way of learning from your customers. You have you're sitting in, let's say you're sitting in France and working on your product. Your development team is entirely in France. Your customers are going to be from anywhere. How do you make sure that you learn from those customers? You learn about your customers and change your product in a way that it works it helps them in the way that it should. So it really is a powerful way to learn about your customers. And according to Stefan Levitt, the key to learning is feedback, and it's almost impossible to learn anything without it. So A/B testing provides you an easy way to learn from your customers, to learn what they actually like, and manipulate your product according to that, to make sure it's good for your customers as well as your business. To summarize, why A/B testing is important and why you should care about it. Your customers decide what stays on your product. It's easy to measure the business impact of your changes. Anything you do is going to be independent of the opinions or assumptions. And it cuts down on the functionality bloat, helps you with the general product deployment and development, and helps you in learning from your customers. This is a nice quote by Lord Kelvin. If you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. Take it home with for your product. Think about it. If you cannot measure the impact of your changes, it's almost impossible to improve it, because you're just going to make assumptions, you're just going to be opinionated about some things that you think works, but you never know whether it actually works or not if you don't do A/B testing. So this was about why A/B testing is important for you, why you should care about A/B testing. Let's talk about some of the things that you can A/B test. By the way, you can A/B test whatever you want. But still, I will give you some examples based on your use case. It may be a e-commerce website or social network or a mobile app, or you may be interested in doing A/B testing on your emails. So let's talk about some of the examples and see what you can A/B test. Let's say you have a website. You're going to have some call to action buttons. You can change those. You're going to have some content, some copy. You can change the copy for the contents, or you can change the copy on your how you greet your new customers. Like, for example, "Hi Sahil, it's a beautiful day," or "Hi Sahil, let's do this," or something. You can change these kind of greetings, how you greet people on your product, and it's definitely going to have impact on how they behave on your product, on your website. You may have visual media like images or videos, and you can change the layout of images. You can change the quality of images, how you show it, resolution, and everything. You can see it has a major impact on how people behave or people interact with your website. You can also change the site navigation. This is really important if you have multiple pages, if you have a step-by-step journey. Like, let's say you have an e-commerce website and you're going to have different steps of booking something or making a purchase. It's really important to change site navigation and see what actually works for you. And you can change the personalization. You can change how you recommend different things. You can change algorithms behind those and see which ones actually engage people more, and keep those which makes more sense for you. If you have some social network, you can change what are the social icons that you use. You can change the profile images. You can change the social ads. And one example is you can change the algorithms behind showing social ads and keep those algorithms which make more sense and which make people engage more with those ads. Or you can change the social messaging if you have on your product. You can change how people are able to interact with each other, how people are able to send messages, view messages, and all this stuff. You can just change some of the things and see how what exactly stays on your website, what exactly is liked by people more. Another example is, let's say you have an email campaign and you want to do A/B testing on your email campaign. What you can do is you can change from name, greeting, or subject length, and we know that these are the things that impact the open rate majorly. Like, it depends on these three things, how much people are going to open their mail. So you can try tweaking these and see what actually works for you and what works for your business. You can also change images or personalization in the emails, and you can also change the optimal time. What that means is, if you send an email campaign, try sending it at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. and try sending it at 6, 7, or 8 a.m. It's definitely going to have impact on how many people open your email campaign. And next, if you have a mobile app, you can change the navigation, you can change the display, you can change how much you send push notifications. You can also change the copy of the push notifications to see which one has more open rate or click rate. And you can also change the deep linking to see how people are coming from other websites or other apps to your app. So in short, A/B testing is a tool to collect data so that you can make accurate decisions. And so far we have seen why A/B testing is important and what all you can test. And now let's see the process of A/B testing and how we can do it. And by the way, there's not one perfect way of doing A/B testing, but here's the one process that works well, and let's talk about that. It has 5 steps. First one is observe a problem. Then you write a hypothesis, you brainstorm on your solutions, then you run the A/B test and analyze the results. And then you make a decision about whether those changes should stay on your product or not. Let's talk about these steps in detail and see how exactly you can go about A/B testing. First of all, you look at the existing data that you have, and you try to figure out what are the things that you can improve in your product. The data can be qualitative or quantitative. And what that means is the qualitative data is going to help you what you want to test in your product. And the quantitative data, on the other hand, is going to help you in deciding where you are going to test in your product. And how you can get these two kinds of data. Qualitative data may be coming from user testing or surveys or your customer-facing teams, which get direct feedback from your customers, which are working directly with the customers, and they get to know the pain points and all the feedback from your customers. And it may also be coming from different kind of tracking that you may have, like heat maps you may have on your product. If you have a website or app, you can see how people are interacting and how much they are interacting with your product, and that will help you decide what exactly you want to test on your product. And the quantitative data may be coming from web traffic or email marketing or any kind of analysis, any kind of data points that you may have according to whatever your product is. And it may also be coming from purchase history, if in case you have an e-commerce website or the like. And it may be coming from the pain points of the users, like customer support tickets, which are going to have like the things that people are not really happy, or they are having some complaints about your product. You may be using those to see where exactly you want to do an A/B test. Next step is write a hypothesis. And what you do here is you write a hypothesis which mentions the source of your data, the problem, and how you're going to solve it. So it should start like this. Based on the data observed, we believe that people are not able to do something, and we are planning to solve it by doing this. But that's not enough. How are you going to measure it? How are you going to make a decision whether your A/B test or experiment was successful or not? It should also include the metric that you are going to track. For example, if you have an e-commerce website, your metric may be conversion rate, or it may be less cancellations, or it may be how much commission you are making. So it really should A/B testing should be a tool to help you making a decision easily. And if you don't include a metric that you're going to track, a quantitative metric that you are going to track, it's not going to help you at all. You will be just ending up with an A/B test which tells you something and you don't know what it is. So you should really include the primary metric that you're going to track as a part of this A/B test. And the next is you brainstorm solutions. This is a step that generally takes the maximum amount of time. You come up with solutions to solve that problem, and you code it up, implement that solution, put it into production, and then you run the A/B test. Once you run the A/B test, you do the same thing. You split your traffic into how many variants you have. If you have 3 variants, you split your traffic into 3 parts. Let your users, customers see different variants, and you collect data according to whatever tracking you have. Next, this is the decision-making process. Once you have the data, and once you have run your experiment for enough time, and it may be 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on what your product is and how much traffic you have. We're going to talk about that as well. Now is the time to make a decision. Now make a decision whether your changes stay or not. So if you have 2 variants, A and B, now is the time to decide whether you should revert back to variant A, which was the base, which was already there, and should you put your changes or put your variant B full on. And how you make that decision is you look at the confidence interval. What that means is how confident you are that the data that you're looking at is significant enough. Another way of saying this is statistical significance. And what that means is how sure you are that the changes, the results that you're looking at are not because of just chance. For example, if you have 95% statistical significance, that means there is 5% probability that the observed difference was just due to chance and it's not significant enough for you to make a decision. In other words, if you have higher statistical significance or statistical confidence, it means that there's a lower chance that the changes or the observed difference is because of a chance, and you can be more sure that whatever difference in, let's say, conversion or your profit rate or profit margin, whatever changes you're looking at in your primary metrics, you can be sure about those if you have higher statistical confidence. Now that you have data, now that you have collected enough data from your experiment, now is the time to make more sense of the data. How do you make sure that you make sense of the data? How you make sure that you're able to sort of narrow down your analysis with that data and make more sense of it, so that it can drive you to do more A/B tests with other things related to that, related to those changes. One thing is you can do segmentation by source. What that means is you segment your data that you collected from this A/B test by the source of the users. Let's say they come on your website from organic search, and or maybe they just type they come from the search engines. And what you want to do is you want to be able to segment your results by the source, so that you can see how people coming from search engines are behaving with those changes. Another way of segmenting may be behavior. Are people clicking on your new features? Are they looking at those features? Are they scrolling to the point where you're showing that new feature? And what are they doing after they see your changes, and what are they doing if they don't see your changes? So these are the kind of things that you may like to segment to narrow down your analysis of that data, so that you can make a more wide decision, and it can help you in doing more A/B testing and in giving you more ideas about what you can try next. You may also want to do it by outcome, and outcome may be totally it totally depends on what your product is. It may be, for an e-commerce website, it may be a conversion rate, it may be profit margin, or if a social media website is social network is there, it may be about how many people sign up, or it may be how many people interact with each other. It really depends on what the outcome is for your product, and you may want to see all those people who made a purchase, for example, on your website, what are the changes that they saw and how it impacted their user journey on the website. Or you may also want to segment the results by demographics. What that means is there may be some changes on your website that are dependent on people from different regions. For example, there may be some changes which are not liked by people from a particular country, and you want to narrow down your analysis and see exactly how people from what region are interacting with those changes, how they are affected by your changes. So next is what metrics are important for you as a business. Again, let's consider the same examples that we saw, and these are again just for examples, just for quick examples to give you some ideas, but it really depends on what your business is, what your priorities are, and you're going to be the one who is going to make the decision based on what your business is. You have a website, you can come up with measuring page views, measuring the sign-ups, measuring how many clicks you get on your click to action buttons, or maybe it may be conversion, as I already mentioned. In case of social networks, you may have how many images are uploaded, how many post updates are, how many tweets are uploaded, for example, how many active users are there, or how many sessions, what the session duration and all this stuff. Or if you have an email, you can have open rate, you can have click rate on your links that you're including in your emails, or it may be conversion again coming from the links from that email campaign. Or if you have mobile notifications, you can have mobile notifications, how many are clicked, how people are interacting with those notifications, or clicks on the conversion call to action buttons, or conversion. Again, these are just for example, these are going to be dependent totally on your business, on your priorities, and what you exactly want to test. But there's a surprise. There are far more ways to fail than there are to succeed. So A/B test, when you're going to A/B test, it's going to fail. And there are some things that you should be taking care of so that you can have minimum amount of these kind of failures. So let's talk about what are the things that that you need to be careful about. This is one of the major reasons for A/B tests being being a failure, because it may be that the implementation that you did was not ideal. And for example, let's say you're showing a new piece of information on your website, and you're making a new database query to fetch that. Maybe that leads to increase in your page load time, and people visiting your website are going to go off because of the page load time and not because of the changes you made. So it's going to mislead you to believing that your changes are not good, but you should be looking for the side effects that your changes have, so that you are able to A/B test efficiently. Next, maybe new errors or warnings. Maybe your changes again are introducing some sort of errors or warnings, and it's because of those warnings or errors that people are going off and not really able to interact, or are not really able to convert or make a purchase on your website, and it has nothing to do with the actual change that you made. Or it may be cross-browser issues. For example, Apple just announced WebRTC support for their Safari browser, and you may be using some of the things that people having different browsers are not able to use, or they are not compatible with that. So you need to carefully test your changes on all the browsers so that you know that it's not going to skew your results of A/B test. Cross-device issues, yeah. Responsiveness. We are still in 2017. We are in 2017, and still we have issues related to responsiveness, how things look on different websites, different devices, different resolutions. So you need to be careful about that, and make sure all your other content is responsive. Next is, you may be missing the context, and what that means is, how are you segmenting your results? Are your new changes less visible? Are you introducing something new and removing something that was already there? This is a very frequent case that you remove something to make space, or you shift something to make space for something new that you're going to add. And it may be possible that the changing of that location of that existing piece of information is making impact, and that's going to skew your results again. This is where the segmentation comes into picture. Untargeted audience. And what that means is, are you segmenting your results by source? Are you looking at the right kind of people that you want to look at when you are looking at the results? Did your users type the URL directly, or did they come, or let's say they are returning users, or they are new users, or maybe they're coming from your email campaign? So you really want to segment the results and see how exactly or where exactly people are coming from, and then see what's the impact of your changes on that segment of the people. Or maybe that they are regular customers, and regular customers are, of course, are more easily able to look at the changes, and they are going to have more impact, while the new users are going to have less impact on the users on the new changes. So you need to be able to segment the results and try to make sense of that. Timing issues. Are your changes seasonal? What that means is, let's say you're doing something related to skiing. Let's say an e-commerce website, and you're selling something related to skiing. It's not going to make much sense in this season. Or let's say you have something that has something to do with the summers. We have summers here in Europe at this time, but it's winter in Australia and New Zealand. So you need to be careful when you do something related to time zones or seasons, because your customers because this is the power of the internet. Your customers are going to be located in any part of the world. They are able to use your product, but you need to be careful that you are localizing your product you're localizing them for different people in different time zones or different regions. Or maybe you're showing some feature too early. Let's say you want to show some piece of information, and you're showing that too early in the user journey. For example, if you have 2 or 3 stages of making a purchase, you may be showing something too early or too late, and people are getting off because of those changes. So you need to be careful with all these timing issues as well. This is Does your tooltip disappear too fast that people are not even able to see what's written there in that tooltip? This is also interesting one. Low traffic. This is a question that people ask most of the time when they run A/B test. Do you have enough data to make a decision for your A/B test? And how you decide that depends really on your use case, but there's a tool with by Optimizely, which helps you in figuring out what should be the sample size per variation for your A/B test, so that you can able to detect those changes with good statistical confidence. Let's look at the screenshot of that tool. You don't really need to read whatever is written. I can just tell you what's important. Let's say you have 3% baseline conversion. As of now, if you don't make any change, the conversion rate on your product is 3%. And the minimum change that you want to notice is going to be 20%. You want to be able to see or measure any 20% change, it may be positive or negative, on the top of your 3% baseline conversion. And let's say you're going to settle with 95% statistical significance. The sample size that you're going to need is going to be 13,000 per variation. What that means is, if you have 3% conversion rate, you're going to measure 20% minimum change. You need 26,000 people if you have 2 variants total in your sample size, so that you can actually make a decision which helps you in deciding whether your changes stay or not. Let's consider this new case. This time you have, again, 3% conversion rate, but you're going to measure 2% change this time. You want to be able to measure 2% change in your conversion rate. What do you think? Is it going to be more than 13,000 or lesser? More, okay. Yeah, that's right. And it's going to be 1.9 million users per variation. And this just comes directly from maths, and what that means is, if you're going to measure lesser changes, small changes, there's a more chance that those changes are just due to chance, or due to noise, or due to some other effects. So the smaller change you're going to measure, the higher sample size you need. So you really need to be careful about deciding whether you have significant amount of traffic in your experiment or not. So to summarize, why do tests fail? Technical flaws. You may have less than not exactly ideal implementation of whatever you're doing. You may be missing the context. You may be measuring the effect of A/B test on untargeted audience, or you may have timing issues like seasonality and time zones, or you may not be doing localization perfectly. You may have low traffic. And this is the really important one. Low traffic is going to put you in a situation where you have a lot of data, you have run the A/B test, but you're not sure whether it's significant enough or not. So let's come to the conclusion. Start testing now. Really, there's no better time to start testing right now. Like, not in this conference, but after that. Start testing your product and stop making the assumptions. And that leads me to the next point. Confirm your instincts. You have some opinions, your teammates have some opinions, but don't get carried away by those. Start A/B testing and confirm your instincts, or just deny them and work on things that actually matter. And the next is learn and take actions. Learn from your users, take actions. For example, this circle should go like this. You do A/B test. You get your confirmation on your opinions. You learn from the data. You put another A/B test, and you learn again. You do another test, and it keeps on going. So this is how it goes. Start testing, confirm your instincts, and learn and take actions. If you want to get in touch, if you want to talk about anything that I talked about, you can get in touch with me on these links. I go by Sahil Dua 2305, name on most of the social media websites. And yeah, thanks. That's all I have. Let's be friends.